All right, this is Riley McCormick. This is going to be the first episode of the Recovery Eau Claire podcast. Maybe the only episode. We'll see how it goes. I'm here with Marlene Palser. Hi, Marlene. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think this is exciting. I wish you luck on this
Thank
whole
you.
project. Yeah.
All right. So the reason I'm doing this is um basically, I guess, just to get out different information and stories of what people are going through where it comes to mental illness struggles, either themselves, people they know, a little bit of both. Part of it, so I just hit 2 years sober this past January.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. A big part of it that helped was always stories that I read of people who had been through the same thing, kind of how they got through it.
I think examples always help us. To hear a successful testimony on how we make it through that always helps.
Yeah, it's helps people know that they're not the only ones dealing with certain things, and especially when you get to see someone really, really turn their life around and see where
Yeah.
they started. It helps to sort of be like, well, wherever I'm at right now can be better, and honestly, I don't even know how much better it can get, but
That's right.
mhm.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
And
I am a retired school teacher. I am married and the mother of four, grandmother of nine. Um, I have seen in my family, in my first family, growing up, and in my family now, mental illness and where it can take you. And if you don't get help, I've also seen embarrassment about it, like shame. If somebody says they have the measles, nobody, there's a thing, nobody shudders. But if you say, I'm mentally ill, ooh, and so I've dodged that. I was a teacher for 35 years, and half my career I worked with behavior disorder and emotionally disturbed teenagers. And some of the kids did not want to come into the classroom. They didn't want anybody to see that they had that label. And it was a label that they didn't earn, they didn't try to get that label. They were born with some issues, genetically got some stuff that they couldn't help. I saw success stories and I saw failures.
so with the disturbed teenagers, I'm wondering, kids that didn't want to be there, what kind of ways would that manifest? Like, people don't want to admit they have these issues. People kind of hide them with different things. Like some kids, they'll put on a tough front and
Mhm.
I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm just going to do my thing. I'm fine. If you don't like it, that's your problem. Some people will hide it with humor, where it's just a big joke and
I saw denial.
it's a denial.
A teacher would recommend that a student be tested, or a family would recommend that their child be tested, and the student did not want to be tested, a lot of the time. And when they were given a label, and labels are tough, we should stay away from labels as much as possible. But to get into a program, a state-funded program, you have to say why you're coming into the classroom. Now, could they not come to my class? Yeah. You don't have to take special ed services that are offered. And so even though sometimes parents, faculty, the student would just fight it enough that they didn't have to. But many times I have kids come in after school. Can we talk? What are you doing here? What's it like? What goes on? And I was teaching coping strategies, or how to deal with the things. Some of the kids were just ADHD. Some of them just had attention problems or hyperactivity problems, but some of them truly had mental illness. When I started, that's way before bipolar was even identified.
So
So some of the things that we know today And the medicine that we know today, we didn't know that. And so humans, not just students, felt like failures or felt like freaks or, just didn't know what to do. So we've come a long way, and that's wonderful.
What sort of improvements have you seen?
Well, I think we called everybody schizophrenic that had, multiple things going on. And I don't think a lot of it was true schizophrenia. I think we were seeing bipolar. We were seeing, other labels, other things that could have been going on. So I think the medicine and the acknowledgement, admitting that, this isn't your fault. You have choices to make. And I think people are making those choices. I don't think it is as hard today to say, I see a psychiatrist, I see a psychologist, I have depression, I have mental. I think it's more accepted today because we realize it's real. Mm-hmm. I can remember a time when people would say, those kids just needed to be schooled more. They just need more discipline. They're acting like that because they didn't, and that's not true. I'm sure there are people like that needed more discipline, but not the people I was working with. And so, because society didn't understand it, kids didn't understand it, it became an embarrassment. And I think we've passed that. A lot of it. There's still some, of course there is. But I don't think people are afraid to say, I'm suffering with depression. My own mother had depression too, huge bouts of it. And they called it, this one was when I, maybe in the 50s, her first one, and they called it nervous breakdown. She had a nervous breakdown. And whatever that meant, I don't know. But I'm sure that she had slipped into depression. She was tired. She was physically worn out, working hard. And she stayed in the hospital for, I'm going to say 2 weeks. And, I'm sure they gave her medication there. I was just 6 years old. But she came back, my mom. And they got her through it. But never was the word mental illness used or any other label. It was a nervous breakdown. And then I'm sure it was depression. So I think we've come a long way that way. And it's wonderful because there's help out there. We need to get it.
It's interesting. You said, so schizophrenia, for a lot of it, was just kind of an umbrella term that everything falls under. So. And in time between now and then, it's been kind of categorized and subcategorized into, well, this may be its own thing with its own set of.
And I don't even know all the categories. I have been out of the classroom. I know people that have told me that they are bipolar and they're taking strong meds and it's helping them. So, but I don't even know some of the subcategories, but I know it's much better and more accepted today. And they don't need spankings. They need help.
Right. So you said you grew up with mental illness. You mentioned your mom's depression. What was there anything else that you recall? Other members?
I had an uncle, and it was kind of a secret. There was something wrong with him, and I just, I was a young child, and I wondered what they were all talking about, why it was a secret. And he committed suicide.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so when you're a child, what was that all about? And then as I grew older, my parent and we relived that story and talked about all of our relatives. My father said, well, he was mentally ill and he didn't get help. And life seemed too overwhelming for him, so he chose death. Oh man, that really was hard for me to hear. Like, who would do that? Who would die? Well, now we know that people commit suicide, and it's common. And there's other reasons besides mental illness, drug overdoses, whatever. But I think that a lot of it is mental illness. And I'm sure my uncle's was. But no way in those days did they have help for that.
Yeah. So, so it was kind of more just stuff it down, don't let anyone see it.
Well, when my grandfather had brain cancer, they operated and removed the tumor, but it left him, it took a part of his brain, that part of his personality. I mean, he still knew us. I was just a little girl, but my parents have told me. But finally, he was put in the county hospital. And so I said, well, what was the county hospital? And my family said, well, that was for people that had gone crazy. You know, the county hospital. You could go there for free. The state paid for it. What a terrible term. They'd gone crazy.
Yeah.
That's so sad. And I'm sure if we could go back and see those people, they needed help. They needed medication. They needed counseling. But they didn't have that. And so they were put in a hospital. I think drugged, maybe, you know, to zombie kind of, not drugs to help with the mental illness, but drugs to calm them. And
Just keep them docile.
Yeah. So have we come a long way? Yes, we have. Do we have a long way to go? Yeah. But not as far as we've come. I don't.
It's interesting. You mentioned earlier where, like, if someone had the measles, you know, it's no big deal. But if someone had mental illness, it was. Let me see.
Like hands off, kind of almost. Like, what's wrong with it? How many people would be able to say, I had the COVID flu? I had the stomach flu. I had mumps. And who speaks up and says, I'm bipolar? You know, it's treated differently. But once again, I want to restate, it's so much better today.
So there's this book I read, Waiting for First Light, My Ongoing Battle with PTSD. It's by Canadian military officer Romeo Dallaire. So what he did was he was the head of the UN's peacekeeping mission to Rwanda before and then during the Rwandan genocide. So he lived through all of that. Their UN orders were just sit tight and guard the UN facilities, don't go out and do stuff. He and his unit actually refused orders, went out, and they're actually credited with saving somewhere around 30,000 people, something like that. But obviously he came back with some issues from that. Part of it is the Rwanda genocide was just kind of swept under the rug by the international community. Like, we just don't talk about that.
But how do you say it?
PTSD.
Yeah. That's another one that I think we have finally, and I lived through the Vietnam War. You just didn't, those men came home and women and needed help. And it wasn't there. Yeah. They were treated terribly. And so that's when that became real to me.
Yeah, he has this bit. Some vets with PTSD have told me they refuse pills because they want to fix their real being. And I always tell them, do you think you could grow back a leg? No. So use a prosthesis to minimize what you've lost and build on that. But what's the prosthesis for what's between our ears? We're basically...
That's a great thing that he said.
So yeah, and I think I've read from other people saying it, like, you come back from war saying you lost a leg and you have issues. Everyone can point and be like, well, yeah, you lost your leg. You come back with mental issues. Well, anyone in life with mental issues, but no, like, outward physical signs that people can see that you're having issues. It's just kind of like, well, what? Just go. Like, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with you. Look. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, pretending like it's not there. People that know you, can't happen because it's real. I think that with the rise of homelessness, I think that more than financial issues that those people have had, I believe it's mental illness. And they end up homeless on the street. So sad. So many times I will see a homeless person or a person asking for money, and my mind thinks, you were a fifth grader at one time. You were a little girl, you were a little boy. What happened? What happened between then and now? And I think it's up here. Sad though. Do you think that our country is better with it? with helping? Do you think that as a whole country, we're more aware and more accepting and willing to admit that there's a true problem? Or is there
Yeah,
still too far?
I think so. I think there has gone an issue where it's gone too far. Like, like especially with the internet, people can look up, oh, I'm feeling this now. Well, I must have this.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yes.
there's a lot of like I read a thing. There's a one of the big things for a while was people self-diagnosing autism with what they read online. It's like, yeah, that's not how that works, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're right. Yeah, the internet, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, self-medicating. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think being more accepting and knowing these things exist without, well, this person's just weak or this person's just a screw up. I think that's gotten a lot better.
I do too. And I think, like, as far as veterans of the war, I think even going back to the Vietnam War, I believe that more and more people are realizing, that's why Uncle Jim, that's why Aunt Sue, that's why it's because of what they saw and what they lived through. In the beginning, that no one would admit that. And I really believe people are now, and they're getting help.
It's definitely, I think, much less like what you said. Well, so and so just went crazy. Put him here, give him meds to calm him down, and just kind of maybe forget him there to a large extent. There is a lot more of you have this issue. It's tough. You can live. You can live a relatively normal life.
Yes.
Like you can learn to deal with this thing. It's
Yes.
not just you're broken.
You can get a job.
Yeah.
You can have a place to live. Definitely.
So that's one thing.
Yeah, and that gives me hope just to hear you say that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but they gave in those days frontal lobotomies,
Oh yeah.
and it made you a zombie. But you didn't act out anymore. You weren't in a straitjacket in a mental institution. You were a zombie.
Yeah.
And they did it. And that movie was kind of an eye-opener of why they did it to the wrong people. So, little by little, we're coming in to more and more awareness of our brain, of our emotions, of how it can all work together.
That actually is one thing I forgot to mention, especially with PTSD. A big thing, just the way PTSD was depicted, like in movies and on TV for so long, was someone has PTSD. Oh, that's when a soldier comes back and is crazy and goes nuts and kills a bunch of people, and that's it. That's just all it is. And now it's more. It's much more nuanced. It's not just veterans like they try to make it show. It's not,
Exactly.
It could be for all sorts of reasons, all different manifestations. But that also, I think, is something that's improved a lot.
I do. I think people's hearts have softened to that, and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's find out and let's get help.
Yeah. And not just for PTSD. I think it destigmatized a lot of. There was an assumption like, oh, you're a veteran. Are you crazy? Are you going to freak at any moment? Sort of thing. Just because, well, I saw this on TV, where you guys are all just kind of nuts. And I think that's going away. Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah, definitely. And otherwise it's, well, you're a drug addict. That's why you're crazy. No, I'm a drug addict because I had mental health issues and I tried to medicate with drugs. I tried to calm myself. I tried to forget about it. And now I'm this, but that wasn't how I started. And I think we're realizing that too. I hope so. Riley, do you still have counselors? Do you still? Or do they help? You said you've been sober 2 years. Do you go to meetings or anything?
No, I should have at one point.
Way back when,
I did eventually just kind of quit by myself. It probably took a lot longer than if I.
But you did it.
Mm-hmm. I had a counselor. I think I saw him for like a year and a half. He was really good. That was then I lost my job, lost my insurance, and kind of had to can't do that anymore.
No.
Haven't had one in the past year or so, but
But you're doing well. That's great. Support is always a good thing. And it's always good to I think, see people who have known the darkest places that you have known, and now they're in a bright place. And it gives you hope that you can be there too. And so that's a good thing. We just had a friend's child die of an overdose.
oh, I'm sorry.
And they would have helped. They would have gotten counseling. They didn't know. They didn't know that now his friends are saying that he was suffering with depression. They really didn't know. And he just kept that from his family and self-medicated. But somebody laced his self-medication with fentanyl and he died. Died in November. Yeah. So the reality of it is we do need what you're doing. We do need to get the word out. We do need to help people to accept, not be ashamed, get help.
You said they didn't know he was depressed, so was the self-medication and everything, they didn't know about that either? It was just
They didn't know what he was using.
wow.
He's an older man, has children.
Oh, okay. I was picturing like a teenager or something.
No, and that's why they were baffled.
So it was just kind of out of the blue.
When they got the call that he was dead, they were in shock.
And how he died.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, in shock. His father had passed away. And he did not get through that death with a good feeling and get on with his life. And that's when he started to spiral downhill. And then the mom didn't realize, she was hurting herself. She was having her own struggles with the loss of her husband. But she didn't realize. And maybe her son didn't want to tell her because he didn't want her to have more sorrow in her life. She doesn't know. Mm-hmm. He's gone. She can't ask him. But she was totally shocked and said, I literally had no clue that he was using drugs. And I don't think that's always true, or even, I think most parents know, But like I said, he's a grown man with a job and a family, 3 children. He was able to hide it.
You familiar with the comedian Daryl Hammond?
I know the name, but don't know.
You ever see Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he played Sean Connery.
Okay, I know who it is.
Yeah. Do you know his story?
No.
No? Okay, so a lot of people don't know. So when he was on SNL, he played all these super popular, funny characters. I think Sean Connery on SNL is probably one of the most popular characters they've ever had.
It was.
You see this guy, he's laughing, he's making people laugh. What they didn't know is he actually had a childhood. He was actually horrifically abused as a child. Like his mom, I think he mentioned, she would like make him stick his hand in light sockets. She slammed his hand in a car door at one point. She would
horrible abuse. Yeah.
Just all sorts of stuff. He said he started cutting himself at 19. Behind stage at SNL, they just didn't come out till years later. But he actually had a mental breakdown at one point, and was taken from the studio in a straitjacket.
Sure, darn it.
Yeah, and I think you said like this man, his family didn't know and no one knew. I think that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
As this
watching
guy,
that show, would you guess that?
Yeah, never would have known that.
Never.
Yeah, that underneath like his shirt sleeves, there's scars, like physical scars from cutting himself, and just all this stuff. So I think that's another good example.
I think the rise and awakening to childhood abuse, sexual abuse, and physical and mental abuse. I think now that we realize the seriousness of it and the common, more than we realize-ness of it, definitely leaves adults. I mean, think of children who've been sexually abused, and then all of a sudden you're 19 and no one's dealt with it. You've held it in. You're like a balloon ready to pop. And of course, drugs would help you calm down from that. But I think that's another huge cause of mental illness.
It's actually interesting. There's something I thought about a lot. You say kids, they don't deal with it and it just all comes out at one point. It's interesting. You hear the phrase kids are resilient. You hear that thrown around a lot.
You do.
And I've been thinking about that lately. Like, is it really resilience or are they just stuffing down something they don't know how to deal with? Because
I agree.
like growing up, all the stuff going on in my life. So, brother Liam died in a car accident when I was 6. Mom's bipolar, was in and out of hospitals for quite some time. I had to help raise my siblings when I was 12, basically till I graduated. I had all these things going on, but at the same time, basically everyone told me how well I was handling things to a large extent. Like,
they don't know what's inside.
Yeah. Like my dad appreciated helping around the house. Like teachers at school, you're doing so well. We see you're really responsible. All this, so it was like I had all these people telling me you're doing so great. And looking back, was like, was I doing great and then I snapped, or was I stuffing everything down until it came out all at once?
I think you're stuffing it and doing great on the outside, because that part of you that knows the right from wrong, that knows to help people, that knows to be kind, kept going. But inside, you're hurting. And it's like a balloon that you're stuffing, but the balloon can only get so big. And then, bang. I worked with a sexually abused girl, and I knew her family real well as a teacher. And when she finally came forward, I mean, she had held it in for years, and the abuse was ongoing, horrible sexual abuse. And she finally couldn't hold it anymore. She had to tell somebody. And she took myself and another teacher and just laid it before us, just a shock of the whole thing. Well, of course, we had to involve social services, the police, the whole 9 yards. And when she went home, her siblings, who couldn't stand father, he abused, they really couldn't stand him. But one of her brothers said to her, "Why did you tell? Now everyone's going to know that our family is different. Why did you tell?" So then she had guilt about something that she didn't cause it. You know, she wasn't the abuser. She was a victim, but trying to get help. There's, people got mad at her. So it was a terrible burden to carry. They did make it through. The family did get the counseling and they did get the help. And they are strong adults now. But they lived through. And she stuffed it. She stuffed it. On the outside, every teacher would have told you that she was one of the finest students ever at our school. Helpful, kind, attentive, obedient. Inside, she was dying. So, yeah, of course. Did you ever think to say to somebody, "I'm not doing so good"?
No.
No, see.
My dad, I don't think he knew how bad it was.
No.
Well, he had our mom to deal with. He had like 5 other kids.
Yeah. He was busy.
Yeah, he was pulled in all sorts of directions. I don't think he could have known, but a lot of it. So, and he had his own issues that, well, he's got people to take care of. He can't really take time to.
No, for
I need to focus on me.
This morning, the loss of a child. The fact that your family is where you are today is a miracle. gotten help, getting help. It's a miracle. But think how many families aren't. Think how many people had what you had inside and have never mentioned it or said anything. We never know. We never know. We can't judge. And that happens, too often. But we can't. Because we don't know what's going on inside.
And you mentioned her brother who was unhappy.
Very unhappy.
I think a big part of that is, well, maybe he's used to the way things are going, and introducing this factor of other people now, well, that brings a whole host of problems that he's not used to dealing with.
Oh, yeah, they had to be interviewed, and police, social services. Everyone in that family told me that the next week when they all went back to school, they didn't know where to look in the hall. Every time they saw someone whisper, every time they thought people were pointing fingers at them. And maybe some were, but not everybody. A lot of people felt sympathy, but no one knew. Teenagers don't vote for teenagers. I'm so sorry. And they don't know how to, it's awkward. It just made an awkward time for their family. Did they get through it? Yeah, they did. But really sorrowful times. Really sorrowful. The brother, when he was younger, she remembers him saying, I wish Dad would die. I wish Dad would die. So he lived with all that, and then when it came out and the dad was going to go to jail, then what was his wish? Why did you expose our family? Years before that, wishing and hoping that the dad would die. Can you imagine all that going on in your heart and in your head and in your emotions? Oh,
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And he had anger issues in school. We would see it. Weren't sure why. We didn't know about any abuse yet, but in his younger years, he had, and now we know why. All of a sudden, we all knew, all the faculty knew why these kids acted the way they did. But how many people aren't walking right now on the earth and nobody knows? But things like this will help.
I hope so.
Yeah, it will. I'm glad you're doing this. It's work. You're reading books, you're researching. You have to relive, too, some of the things that you've gotten past, and that's not always fun.
No. Something interesting. So, like I mentioned, part of it with him being upset that she spoke up, that bringing all these other issues that he hadn't dealt with, as opposed to these issues that he had probably gotten used to. Like I don't like this, but it's at least familiar. We do this. It's the unknown that comes in.
I had a student, Riley, one time from a very, very dysfunctional home, and her mother was a severe, severe alcoholic. And she was the oldest girl. There was two little girls in her, and she couldn't stand it. Her mother was either drunk or hollering, and she was alone raising the little girls, and total dysfunctional. She had the run of the house because her mom was at a bar till they closed. But she wanted help, and she wanted to get out of the house. And she did. She went to the guidance counselor finally and just unloaded everything. And she was taken out of the home. She was put in a fabulous foster home. a really swell, loving Christian family. And she was so excited because she thought those kids were really cool at school because they were so kind and good. And after 2 weeks, she came. She was one of my students in my program. She came to me and she said, I don't want to live there anymore. I said, what? You love it. And she said, I miss the hollering. And I said, what? And she said, I thought I wanted structure and, bedtime and a study time like normal families have. But she said, uh, nobody hollers, nobody swears, nobody's drunk. And I said, yeah, that's what we hoped for.
She got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
She said, I feel out of place. Now, how sad is that?
It's really sad.
But I think it's a reality.
Well, part of it is the grass is always greener on the other side, but this is at a pretty extreme level of that. Like you read about like abused spouses. They obviously hate the abuse. They don't like where their life is going, but I should just leave. And the next question, well, where do I go? How do I take care of myself? I get those things here. It's in addition to these things that that's my normal. Yes. I leave my normal. I don't know what else there is.
That's true. That's exactly true. Exactly. It's a feeling of being lost then. You think you're being rescued and it's going to be wonderful. But you're like a fish out of water. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to act here. I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. They've seen themselves in a mess for so long that it's who they become. But there is help for that. And we need to help people get that help. I took a training to work with sex trafficked people at one time here in Oak Cliff, quite a few years ago. And we had a video. And it was hard to watch. It was really the realities and the truths and how huge sex trafficking is. And one of the things that shocked me, I just wasn't ready for it. They had 3 teenage girls who had been trafficked in Russia. They had rescued them, and they'd been trafficked for years. I mean, they lost school, the whole 9 yards. 2 of those girls they were all thankful to be rescued in the beginning. And of course, they had to have counseling and professional help and support, and the people that I don't remember the name of the group that rescued them, but it was a wonderful thing. 2 of them, one of the girls went on to go on in her education and was doing very well. One of them worked to help fight sex trafficking. She wanted to help rescue other girls. The third one went back. And just when she left, she said, it's the only life I've ever known. I had clothes, I had food, she said, I don't. And she went back. She went back to the guy that owned her, or for lack of a better word.
Basically.
Yeah. And I just couldn't get my mind. I remember driving home that night from seeing the video, and I couldn't get my mind around that. I absolutely couldn't. But it just seemed harder for her to start over than to just give in. I mean, she had just given in. And she was kind of, the way they, get those girls to kind of just be zombie-minded and to just do everything they say. She just couldn't seem to break out of that mentality. And I don't know what happened to her after that. There was no, there was no more video. But just that, I struggled with that, thinking about it. But I understand, I guess, just that, wow, unbelievable. But it's just like you said, the abused woman that stays with the abusing husband.
Because it's at least familiar.
Yep. And there's always a few positives. We have a nice home, or my kids have nice clothes, or, so I'll take this. Yeah, tough stuff, though.
I think that's something, even like you'll hear what the women and all them will say about their abuser as well. He just kept reminding me who will take you in, where will you go? So that's reinforced, like, oh, you're right. I
Yep.
have nothing and no one else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they know that that's going with them too.
Mhm. Failures feel like failures, so I might as well just stay here. Yeah. Sad things, though. So much sad in the world. We have to bring awakening, awareness, help, love, contentment. You know, we have to. We have to bring those things.
Off the top of your head, or you can think about it for a minute too, I guess. Um, what would you say is the most? Has there been one big dramatic change in a person that you've seen that pops in your head the most? They were in this low point, they got to this great point, and like something that you think of and really, really gives you hope and
I go
inspiration.
to church with a lady that was abused horribly, and the man that abused her two children from her first marriage, sexually abused them. And her whole personality, because she'd been abused for years, her whole personality died, you know. And finally, because of the children, she was able to break away. And she got help. Her faith, the people that helped her, God made it, the strength, made the true difference in her life. And another thing, thankfulness. She was so thankful to have gotten her children out of there. If it had just been her, who knows if she would have been able to do it, because, you can take it yourself, but you can't let your kids. Most people can't. And to see her now, to see how her goal in life is to help others and to bring others to an awareness and to help women break free from the prison of abuse. And from where she was, and I didn't know her at her lowest point, but I've been told by people that did, it's a nightmare. She was in a dark, horrible place. And now she brings sunshine to other people. So she's the one that I would say came the farthest. Did she get counseling? Yes. Help? Yes. And friendship. The people in the group and in the church befriended her and spent time with her and showed her love and helped her with her children, helped her get started over in life, because that's hard. You have no money, you don't have a car, but people rallied and helped her. And so she's the person, and I can't say her name, of course, she's the person that I've seen that I would say a good example of that you can get better. And she really is. She's not putting on a front. She really is better. It's wonderful. So that's the one.
Okay. Are you familiar with the book The Cross and the Switchblade
Yeah,
by
I
David
remember it.
Wilkerson?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was actually looking through this the other day. There's a story that really sticks out. You remember the story of the girl Maria?
I remember the name Maria, but I don't remember the part of that story. It's been years since I saw the movie, too.
So it was his second trip to New York to
Nikki Cruz or David Wilkerson?
David Wilkerson.
Okay.
Yeah, it was his second trip to New York to minister to gang kids and drug addicts. And he was in this, I think, basement, he said, talking to these kids, and one girl, and he said he was making progress. They were like listening really, really intently, and this one girl, Maria, said that there wasn't any help in it for her. And he asked why. She says, "Come here." Maria walked over beneath the light bulb and held out her arm. I could see little wounds on it like festered mosquito bites. Some were old and blue, some were fresh and livid. I suddenly knew what this teenage girl was trying to say to me. She was a dope addict. Maria had expressed the opinion of the experts. There was virtually no hope for the mainline addict, the one who injects heroin directly into the bloodstream. The last time I saw Maria, she and her family were on their way to Puerto Rico. Johnny, her husband, stood proudly at her side. Wow. Maria's 3 young children hung shyly to her freshly starched skirt, and they were clinging to a mother they were beginning to feel they could trust.
Oh, wow.
So I think
Wow, what a great story for him to include in that.
Yeah.
That gives hope. It's a really big amount of hope. How did you get up to say, nope, I can do this, even though I relapsed?
It started, my mindset started, I can't tell you when, 'cause that there's a few years there that it was so blurry.
Of course.
At some point, my mindset switched from, I don't have a problem, I can quit anytime I want, to, at some point finally got the thought that, well, I need to cut back. Which was kind of a step in the right direction, but didn't actually get me anywhere, because
Yeah.
I'd start drinking and I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
So I'd wake up the next day hungover.
Yeah.
The first thought wasn't, wow, I shouldn't have drank. It was, I shouldn't have drank as much. It's kind of the mental gymnastics of, I can have a little bit of
But
something I'm
can't.
addicted to. And yeah, no, you can't.
Mm-mm.
And then at one point, again, I don't know when or the whole process, but I did at one point, without the goal of completely quitting. I started a new job I had to focus on. Had some things going for me that were working well, and I just went without drinking for like a year. Again, without the plan of I'm quitting, just like, well, I'm taking some time off.
It was a long time.
It was around a year. It was like, I'm taking some time off. Then one day, the mood just struck me. I was like, well, it's been a year. I can probably handle it now. And I was just going to have a few drinks. Then I blacked out and woke up the next morning.
Yeah.
Just.
Did you feel like a failure?
Yeah, I think so. When I was hungover, I didn't really feel a lot. I was just kind of numb.
Sure.
But
miserable.
That did finally get it across. Like, at first it was, well, I need to cut back. Couldn't do that. Then it was, well, I'll just take some time off, and then I'll be able to handle it. So it was sort of like, no little amount is. It's not a matter of quantity. It's a matter of substance. Like, I just need to stay away from it completely. It's not a matter of time in between uses. Like, well, I can learn to kind of get it under control. It was, I just can't do this at all.
I wish more people could think like that.
It took me a while to figure that out, but
Of course.
there's a really good, I think, a way of thinking of it that helps put it in perspective. There's a clip from a David Bowie interview where this was after he'd gotten clean. Like, he was a rock star, so he did everything.
Everything, yeah. Gosh.
But the guy's interviewing him, and he's like, so you don't do drugs anymore? No. You don't drink? Like, what? Not even a glass of wine? And he cuts him off. He's like, no, it would kill me. So I think that's a good way to think of it as well. I can have a little, and you do have to just kind of cut it off as, no, it would kill me. That doesn't leave room for mental gymnastics or anything like that.
And you realize that about yourself.
Yeah.
That's great. I think the Willie Nelson and all the guys and the heavy drinking that they talk about that they went through, and some of them broke away. I think Johnny Cash completely broke away from alcohol.
I think so too.
Yeah, I remember right. And the Bob Dylan movie and Bob Dylan's life story, it shows his friendship with Johnny Cash, how Johnny Cash helped promote him, but it also shows Johnny Cash drunk. And so they told the truth. The movie revealed the truth about that whole time in their lives together. But I do remember Johnny Cash being interviewed, and he was sober and had been sober. But he had to leave it all alone. He had to stay away and leave it alone. I think that's true of most people.
It's something that just has to be completely cut off.
Yeah.
You can't be around it at all. But.
And sadly, I don't know why that seems like, well, that's kind of sad. I don't get to drink anymore. I don't get to have this with my friends. And it shouldn't be sad. It should be a freedom. A new freedom. Do you feel free from it pulling you down?
Yeah, Um, Intellectually, I'd like the idea of being able to have like a Guinness with my dad on
Of course.
holidays or something.
Of course.
And the thing is, I know that in that moment I could have one Guinness with my dad, and that like day or whatever it'd be fine. But within days of that, it'd be, oh, I had one and it was fine. I can go do X amount.
That the one would become 13
Yeah.
in one evening. Yeah. I know.
So I know I can't even play that game.
I had an uncle that was a severe alcoholic, and he was found in an alley in Minneapolis. He was dying, and he was put in the hospital. And then my family was called. I was already out of college. I was teaching. And no, I was still in college when he came. And the hospital called my parents and said, "Will you come and pick him up?" So they did, but the rule was you can live with us and work and make a salary on our farm. Can't drink at all. And he said, I can't drink at all because I can't stop. The first alcohol I have tricks my brain into thinking that I can have more. And so he knew it, and he lived with my parents for several years, never touched a drop. He got a back check from Social Security. They couldn't find him. They couldn't find him because he was almost homeless in Minneapolis, and then moves to Wisconsin, and so he got a check, a large sum of money, not huge, but money that he didn't have, and he wanted to move into an apartment and then just drive out and work on the farm with my parents and then drive back. So they thought that would be a good idea. Well, he moved into town, and within days he had gone to a bar at night after he'd gotten home, after he'd had supper with my family, my parents. And the bar called. He was drunk as a skunk. He just at one, he thought he could go down and have a beer with the guys, and he couldn't. And 2 days later, drunk again, and he died. Couldn't do it. Couldn't stay sober. And he couldn't have one drink. I think that's more common than we realize. How did your family deal with all of it? Do they know where you're at mentally about that?
Do they know where I'm at? Yeah, they know it's behind me. It's something I don't do anymore.
Good. That's good. They must be proud.
As far as where they were in the process, I might edit this part.
Sure, yeah, and that's okay.
A lot of them just left as soon as they saw I wasn't doing well.
Yeah, I get that.
So I got out of the Marine Corps, so I started drinking in the Marine. A lot of people drink in the Marine Corps.
In every armed forces, yeah.
And it became a dependency thing. Part of it is I was so wound up from my childhood, and I can't let anything out. Well, obviously, alcohol is it blocks inhibitions. Mm-hmm. So all of that, I have to keep this down, and I can't act out. It's, well, no, you don't. You just drink this, and you can be yourself and just kind of go nuts. So that was a big part. It was like an off switch for my anxiety.
Sure.
So that was
medication.
Yeah, self-medicating. So that got really, really bad, and it was on top of the stuff I hadn't dealt with from being a kid, and now I'm in this really stressful environment, and I'm just trying to keep all of it down. And
wow,
like, I'll be pretty open. The stuff I was dealing with, I shouldn't have joined the military at all at that point. I should have. It was too big of a step. I should have figured out this stuff. If I was going to join at all, I should have taken.
Got help.
I should have figured this stuff out first.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
but how do you know that until you?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you know that until you go through it?
But it was my normal. I didn't know this was I didn't know I had these issues.
Of course.
I've gotten used to it. But so I take these issues into the Marine Corps. So I still don't have health for them, and now I have all these other things to worry about. Deployed twice, all this stuff going on, and and still through all of it, well, I can drink anytime I want, and my worries go away, and they were big worries. So that helped. So I basically become an alcoholic in the Marine Corps, get out of the Marine Corps. I come home. I'm not doing well. Well, I don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really
And structure.
And structure, yeah. A lot of people get out. They tell you need a plan when you get out, and a lot of people, what? No, I'm just going to chill for a while, like 6 months, and they don't realize. With no routine, people go nuts.
Yes.
Like everyone.
Yeah. We need routine.
Mm-hmm.
We do.
So I didn't have this routine, which drives people nuts, and I was still drinking.
Huge mistake.
So there was that.
Going through with our daughter all the stages of the drug addiction that she's taken us through and the mental illness. We've never said, get over it. Get sober. No. Saw her today. She's better. But we haven't seen her for 6 weeks. Relapsed.
Oh, the library thing, right?
Yep. And she looked better today.
That's good.
Yeah, she looked better. I said, you maybe should get professional help to completely get away. She said, well, so far I'm doing really well. And I think she was, although lying is a really easy thing to do when you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
When you're not, it's an easy thing to do. But I felt some hope refreshed in me today, so that's a good thing. Yeah, one day at a time. But have always tried to be there. You do have to cut off sometimes. You can't keep giving money to a drug addict or an alcoholic because you know what it's used for. So we had to go through all those stages, and we did. But tried to always encourage. Tough times, though. 14 years of it.
So with your daughter, kind of my example of myself where everyone thought I was doing well. No, you're doing well in school and you're good. Was that kind of the same thing with her? Were there ever any signs?
No.
It was not the same.
That's the same with her. She showed signs of emotional issues and mental issues as a little girl. Her birth...
How little?
Kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
Her birth mother was the lady that I was referring to before that was in my special ed class.
I thought she was your daughter. Okay.
And she asked us to adopt the baby she was carrying. And I said, I'm 47. There are so many young families that don't have babies. Bless them with this baby. And she said, I don't know anybody. My family are all drug addicts or alcoholics. And I know you. And I know Phil. And I'm going to leave this baby on your porch if you don't go through the legal adoption system. So we did. And her birth mother was extremely mentally, and emotionally disturbed. And her birth father had some horrible issues also. So genetically, she got, and it doesn't always happen, genes and chromosomes, it's a toss-up. You don't always get the good or always get the bad. And she just got every weakness that both of her birth parents had, every times 10. And so in third grade, they asked us to get her help and get her on meds. Teachers were having struggles with her, and I said, I don't want her on meds. She's just a child, I don't. But it got really bad, and they did an IEP, and we had to take her to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. And they put her on Ritalin, and then something else, and then something else, and she just struggled with being in a classroom. Her fourth grade teacher was fabulous. He himself takes meds for problems, and he's a fabulous teacher. So he knew how to help her in the classroom, how to help her pay attention, how to help her. He was wonderful, but it wasn't like that. And then she started running away, and like just for short periods of time, like 4 hours, we wouldn't know where she was. And then she was up getting high with kids from the high school.
The Bethel?
No, she was at Fall Creek then.
Okay.
And we took her out of Bethel. Well, she never went. We took her right into Fall Creek. And so there I was teaching there. And the sad part is the teachers would come down and say, we need you, we need you. If I didn't teach here, I have to keep teaching. So there was that emotional. That was hard on me. They'd call me out in the hall. Miranda's had a meltdown. So what do you do with the meltdown? Do you call their parents out on the farm and ask them to come in? Put the process that we all know what to do. And one day she was drunk in school, and they had to come and get me, and I had to call Phil, and he had to leave his job, and she was in the office, drunk out of her mind.
How old was she at the time? Roughly?
Probably 15, the drunken time. But then she found a bunch of her friends introduced her to marijuana, and she loved it. She didn't have to take her ADHD medicine or other pills that the doctors had her on, because marijuana helped her relax, and she didn't lose her appetite, and she didn't get a headache, and she wasn't sick to her stomach. She thought it was the most wonderful thing ever. But it just led her down a road into hardcore drugs. And she got pregnant when she was just about to turn 18, and so she stopped using. And then when Emma was 2 months old, she went back. She moved in with a drug dealer. And they've had Emma ever since she was 2 months old. But what was the original question? Anyway.
Oh, I asked if there were signs at all, or if it came out of nowhere.
Because she just struggled emotionally. I'm going to say her whole life. Just some strange things, like in kindergarten, many kids put their shirts in their mouth and suck on it, or their sleeves. A lot of little kids, they don't have a pacifier anymore. They suck on their clothes and their spit on them. She would suck on her clothes, bite them, and swallow it. And just a little nervous. That the teacher told me how she was doing that one day, and she swallowed the cuff of her blouse. And just some real mental illness stuff.
With your experience with struggling kids, have you ever seen anything like that? Swallowing clothes chunks? That was a new one for you?
I've seen biting on things, biting pencils in half, chewing the wood, crumbling it, just nervous, or just thinking they're listening to you and they don't know what to do with all the stuff that's inside them. And then I've seen kids break things, but I never saw anybody eat cloth. So when the teacher called us that time, I said, this is farther than I've been trained. This is beyond what I have. We liked the counselor, we liked the psychiatrist. Then when she got older, he left, can't remember his name, and we got a new psychiatrist, and we liked him too. When she turned 17, he said, I cannot label your daughter bipolar until she's an adult.
Legal reasons?
Just, they don't think they're really seeing that, maybe. And if they put you on lithium when you're young, really serious stuff. So he said, but I'm going to tell you, after her 18th birthday, that's what I'm going to be saying she needs help for. Well, when she wouldn't go see him anymore when she turned 18. She'd gotten pregnant, and she wouldn't see a doctor anymore. She wouldn't take meds anymore. So he did label her bipolar, but not kind of officially. And she refused to see. Now she was seeing a great doctor in the last 2 years who's been a great help to her and has been willing to juggle meds and try this one and, really help her stay calm and...
That's a whole process itself.
Oh,
Especially reacting to meds differently than they'll expect, and
which is too strong, and how you've been on this one too long, and
it can feel a lot worse before it gets better with meds.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
No, I know that it was tough. But now she told me today when I saw her, she said, Mom, my doctor is quitting. And Phil said, have her recommend someone that's as wise and as kind and as helpful and patient and persistent as she is. And she said, yeah, she kind of teared up. She said, but she knows me and she's been so good and she's forgiven me when I relapse. Because when you relapse, then you're ruining all those meds that they're giving you. Now you're onto another whole thing that your body has to deal with. And that lady was really patient. So I hope that she pursues to get a good doctor and get help. But it's tough. How, without a miraculous healing, how do you make mental illness go away? How do you make bipolar go away?
Well,
it's tough.
Sometimes part of it is like with any, we don't like small little steps to get to a big change. We like, I'm going to do this one big thing now and it's going to fix everything and it'll be quick. We don't like doing that.
Our whole country wants to be quick about everything, not just illnesses and mental illness. I mean, with everything, with food, with everything, fast.
I forgot what I even pulled this up for.
But anyway, I think you're exactly right. This is going to be slow. You're not going to feel like $1,000,000 tomorrow morning when you wake up. But maybe in a week, 2 weeks, a month, we'll see help.
Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson at all? He's doesn't practice anymore, but he was a clinical psychiatrist for a really long time. So he came out with this book, 12 Rules for Life, and Antidote to Chaos. Basically, just a list of things that I can hopefully apply to my everyday life to make things better. And there's a couple of them. Rule 2, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Which the example he uses is most people for themselves. If they're prescribed something, they'll either not forget about it, they won't take it right, they won't take it regularly, versus people, like even for their dogs or pets, if the vet gives them medicine, they'll be super diligent with it.
Yes.
So we'll take care of things or people outside of ourselves. Most people, maybe not.
I agree.
That we'll take care of this person really well outside of ourselves, but when it comes to taking care of ourselves with these things, we kind of let it slide. So that's
because we know the truth and we know ways that people can get help. And so we can tell them, we can teach them, we can preach to them, but applying it to ourselves is always the hardest thing.
So that's why he says, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for.
That's really a good thing. Mm-hmm. That'd be a good poster.
Mm-hmm. It probably is one. He's a famous dude at this point. But another one, like especially going back to the small steps, you're like, there's not a cure. These things aren't going to go away, and certain things probably aren't ever going to completely go away. But it's rule 4: compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. So I think that's a big part of the small steps. It's because like some of the people like to have stories help. I think stories help in a way that they can give insight and lessons, but they can be destructive in that, well, if I compare myself to this person's great story, then I'll...
Yeah, mine can't be 1/10 that great. Right?
Yeah, then it's... Yeah. So, like, Tyson Fury is someone I look up to where he's a boxer. He was, I think, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world at one point, was undiagnosed bipolar. So you think bipolar's...
Mike Tyson, right?
No, Tyson Fury.
Okay.
I think Mike Tyson was also bipolar. But
yeah, I thought so. Okay. Okay. Tyson Fury.
Yeah. But so he was undiagnosed bipolar, so he has this huge up with becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So there has to be, with bipolar, there's a corresponding.
Yeah.
So he was 2 years out drinking. I think he said he was drinking every day. Alcohol, cocaine, suicidal at one point. He was in a Ferrari. He was like flooring it towards like a wall, and he stopped. But then he got clean and won his title back. Actually became the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world again.
Nice.
And so I think what I was saying before is you can take inspiration from that, but with the compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to someone else's today. If I look at that and
that's a good thing.
And say, oh, well, he wound up. Look at what he's doing now. I should be in that place, or none of it works, kind of. And it's
a put down to yourself.
Yeah.
In the end, and then you throw the towel. I can't be that great, so I'm just going to stay where I am.
And I can't be that great right now or in the next couple of days. So
tell me the author of the book that I said should be a poster.
Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos. So that's the one.
Great book, huh?
It's really good. So that was the one. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, and compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to someone else's today.
That's really good.
It's really good. Oh, I remember what I was going to mention. So another thing with trying different meds when you have these issues going on, I remember the first time I went to a doctor and they prescribed something. They gave me the whole rundown. And one thing to know about meds is they're not a cure-all. They're not, again, back to how we are in society. I want what I paid for. I bought this med. That should just fix everything. Otherwise, why am I paying for it? But I remember them telling me, so this is going to help, not completely take away the anxiety and depression, but it's going to help. Your body has to adjust to it. So it's going to be 1 to 2 weeks of not feeling. It depends on how you take it as an individual, but you're going to feel woozy and off balance and foggy for at least the first 2 weeks, and then it might help with these issues. And you hear that, and you're like, what? So 2 weeks of...
Because we want overnight.
Yeah, we want overnight. We don't want any side effects. I remember you hear that, and you're like, so 2 weeks and it might help. I have this substance right now that makes me feel good in half an hour.
Yeah.
So that I think made a huge barrier towards looking for help and medication.
That was for our daughter too. Mm-hmm. Definitely. The meds, the side effects of this, the tossing, turning, trying this much. Drugs did it right away. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go see somebody. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's tough because what are you going to do about that? It's true. You don't feel great right away. You do have to wait. It might not be the one that works. You might have to. That's hard. That's hard. We want to get fixed.
It's kind of back to where everyone's different. It's actually the same guy, Jordan Peterson. I saw a video of him talking about it. So there's that debate over whether certain addictions are learned behaviors versus genetic, and obviously the answer is it's going to be a little bit of both. It's nothing really clear cut, but he said
it is,
especially with alcohol, variances in individuals. There's certain people. I'm probably one of them. I haven't tested it out. I'm not going to, but if I had to guess, I probably am. He said certain people process and digest or whatever alcohol differently. Their body treats it as an opiate. He said one thing.
I agree with that.
He said there's certain people, because what is it? Alcohol is typically a depressant, right? It makes you slow down. Where there's certain people, it's a stimulant. Mm-hmm. It basically, it makes you happier the more you take it. Mm-hmm. Your mood improves the more alcohol's in your system, and then it lowers when you decrease it. And he said a test you can do, which again I'm not taking this test, but he said one thing you can do to kind of indicate you're one of those people is take your pulse, write it down, do 2 or 3 shots really quickly, wait 10 minutes, take your pulse again. If it's gone up like 5 to 10 beats, your body's processing it as an opiate. You're genetically, you are going to have problems with it. So that was something he talked about that was really interesting.
Yeah, you're not going to do that because you're not going to take those shots.
No.
But I get that. Wow. I have never heard that before.
And I looked it up. I think it was on PubMed or something. It's that website. They have a lot of medical studies. I think that was a thing that's been more or less proven. It's not the same for everyone. Some people are genetically much, much worse.
And I've watched people that have both drank too much. Even in college, I've watched friends. And some people, alcohol was high. And some sleep, downer, quiet. So it definitely affects people differently.
I think that's a good way to end.
That's a wrap. Thank you. All right.